Today, we're going to very briefly discuss a few core ideas behind animation. In particular, the very basics of keyframe animation. To illustrate this, I'll be using Adobe After Effects, but this initial concept that we're talking about really applies to any modern software with keyframes. This includes video editing software, compositing and motion graphics tools, and 3D modeling and animation programs. Now, one of the most basic building blocks of animation, as I've said, is the keyframe. In traditional hand-drawn animation, let me pull up an image here to talk about it. In traditional hand-drawn animation, keyframes were drawn by the key animators or the lead animators. These were often the the best artists, honestly, working at the animation studio. So someone from Disney, whoever was best, would draw these keyframes. Now, keyframes are the most important moments in any string of animation. So in this example with this character, if they were to, let's say, have an animation of them waving their hand, the keyframe artist would draw a keyframe of the character at rest, followed by an image of the character with its hand up in the air at the apex of the animation, and the character with its hand down at the ground. This would be followed by the assistant animators coming in and filling in the gaps between those key frames, rendering those in between to create the illusion of motion. So a first pass at this might look, and let me get down to the corner so we can really show you what's going on here. The initial pass might look something like this, and this be really quick, but just a very quick, very rough animation. Here, here, here. Followed by the assistant animators going in and filling in even more images, so it might look something like this. You can see the yellow images there at the bottom highlighted in the timeline are those keyframes still. So an okay animation, but still quite choppy. And then even after another pass, adding in more images in between those, we finally get a really fluid sense of motion in the animation. Pretty cool. Now, currently, in the current day, there still is room for this type of animation with real people drawing frame by frame, but more often than not, we are finding the common practice is to use computers to be those assistant animators, and for the animators to really be lead animators creating those key frames. Let me show you what this looks like within After Effects. If we wanted to animate this sphere going from left to right on the screen, we would create a keyframe. And that's right down here. I've already highlighted the property that we want to animate, and that's the position of this sphere. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this icon here, this stopwatch, which creates a keyframe in the timeline. Now, if I were to move to the 2-second mark and move my sphere, say over to the right, you can already kind of see what's happening. The computer's beginning to put in those guidelines of what the animation is going to do. And if I go back to the beginning of my timeline, you saw a hint of it there, and hit play, we see motion. We see that between those two keyframes, the computer is acting as the assistant animator and creating an image for each one of these frames in between, much like a real person would have done at a drawing board in years gone by. Now, it still looks a little choppy. It goes and then stops with no real natural motion to it, but we can change that. With the graph editor, which is something that comes standard in just about any animation software, we can select those 2 points and change their speed to ease in and ease out. And if I were to play this back, you'll see that it starts off completely stationary, speeds up, and then slows down. And that looks much more natural. And we can take this to more of an extreme by cranking on these handles to create this huge valley or this peak and valley kind of effect. And now if we watch, it'll start out very slow, quite fast, and then slow again. Now, what if we take this very simple concept that we have going on with these keyframes and apply it to more than just position? Well, that's where the power of keyframing comes in. If we go to my next example, we take this sphere, why not keyframe something like the color or the size here, and then followed by the color? And maybe we can deform it and then have it leave frame. All of this done by just animating specific properties of the effects applied to the sphere. The rotation, the position, the scale, the opacity to have something fade in and out. All of these combined create everything that we know as computer animation. It gets a little more complicated, but these are the basic building blocks for any piece of animation that you have seen since the advent of computer animation.